What's up guys, Brad here from Piney Grove, and we've been getting a lot of heavy rains lately, and that's causing us some problems on our property. We've got some low areas that don't drain properly, so I was out here yesterday with a shovel trying to divert the water and get it where it needs to be. But the biggest thing is our driveway got washed out because one of our culverts got clogged with leaves. So we're gonna grab the Summit TX25, put on the rear blade, and go work on that today. Let's get started. Right now it looks like it's about straight up and down, and I think I want it cut back a little more. I'm gonna lengthen my top link here. I guess we'll try that. What I don't want to do is get it too low, and when I'm backing up coming off the driveway that it like digs into the pasture. Here's the pond level. I don't know if you can see on that PVC pipe, but that black line at the bottom would be 5 foot. So we came up from 4 foot to almost 5 foot in one rain. The joys of YouTubing. When I zoomed in on that PVC pipe and I turned the camera around and left it zoomed in, and I was saying a whole bunch of meaningful stuff, I'm sure, but I was zoomed in and about basically the only thing you could see was my nose in the camera. But what I was talking about was there's a lot of people interested in updates on our pond because it's such a big part of our channel, and it's been such a challenge over the past 5 or 6 years since we've dug it. Well, a couple months ago, we got in there and tested the soil, and we know what we need to do to fix it. But since then, we've had some torrential downpours of rain, and it's filled the pond from where it was dry here to now it is 4 foot or better on this end, and it just gets deeper as you go that way. So the plan for the pond is that we will fix that pond, and we will seal the bottom of it, and we're going to do that with bentonite, and that is a big process. It requires us to drain the pond, get it dry, scrape the bottom, put down bentonite, till in the bentonite, pack it in, and then let the pond refill. But right now we have so many other things going on at Piney Grove that that's not our priority, and so we're just going to see how it goes throughout the summer. So last night all this was about a foot deep of water, and it stays trapped here, so I dug this trench and just tried to follow the contours of the land to get the water down into this low area, and then once it gets in this low area it can make its way into the pond through this culvert. Since we have a runoff pond, a big way that it gets water is through that culvert coming from the county road, but also the water that I just diverted down here will loop around here and come in this culvert. But enough about the pond, let's go look at this driveway. Last year I did a video where I lined the driveway with railroad ties because it was washing out, and got a lot of comments from people, and that's what people tend to do, is criticize your work, and said, you didn't fix the problem and this is going to wash out again. Well, they were 100% wrong. They're also 100% right. Let me show you what I mean. What we have here at Piney Grove is what's called an asphalt millings driveway. And when they put in a new road or resurface a highway or county road, they grind up the millings and sell them. They keep a certain amount to recycle, but some of them they resell. So we bought like 15 loads. We created this driveway. But the problem was the water coming from the hill behind me would rush down here and flood out our driveway. So the water comes down the hill and hits this culvert, and it should come out the culvert and go downhill and hit that pipe going into the pond. But when this culvert is blocked, the water puddles right here and then wants to come down the side of our driveway. And we did fix that by putting a little culvert here, so if that ever happens, the water can shoot down the side of the driveway and then go into the pond. But what we didn't count on was the fact that there was so many leaves and grass here that it filled up that culvert and blocked that screen that we have on it. And when that overfilled, it overflowed into the driveway and washed down the driveway. I've got it cleared now, but when that gets covered with leaves, water can't go down the right side of the driveway, and it spills over and it runs down here, and that's what we have. And it's not a big deal because these asphalt millings, when you put them down and drive on them, and we've had bulldozers and tractor trailers and everything here, it's very compacted, gets very hot here in Florida. They kind of congeal again like an asphalt driveway, but on top there's the loose parts that don't, reform. So what we got to do is scoop up all these loose parts, put them back in the center of the driveway, and then backblade it with the tractor bucket. And these are those loose millings that went off into the grass here. So we got a couple piles here we need to scoop up, and then there's some over here too. That's quite a bit here because that was a big hole there. But we'll get all that stuff back here in the center and then regrade this. And here's that hard base I was talking about. This is not going to wash out. That's all of those millings that are compacted. The heat of the Florida sun has just kind of glued them back together. It's this loose stuff that washes off, and this loose stuff fills in all these gaps here so you have a smoother driveway. Let's jump on the summit and see if we can fix this. One of my favorite ways to reclaim millings or anything on the side of a driveway is use the back of the bucket and pull it. But we're going to try and use the blade a little bit too. The problem with the blade and the bucket too is the driveway is only so wide and the tractor's just as wide, and it's hard to pull that material and not fall off the other side of the driveway. Now this will pick up a lot of dirt as well, but once you get the dirt on the crown of the driveway, the rain will wash the dirt out and leave the stones here. It actually worked pretty good. It grabbed the stones and didn't really tear up the grass or the dirt. I like that. That turned out good, and the reason I think it turned out better than me using the back of the tractor bucket is sometimes I apply too much pressure with the tractor bucket and dig in too much. But I like how that turned out. A lot of dirt in there, but like I said, that'll all wash out with the next rain. This is going to be an easy day. In the past, myself and Miss Piney Grove would come out here in rakes and try to scoot those millings back into the driveway and not mess up the grass here, because this grass keeps this side from eroding. But this is working out really good. I was able to reclaim all those millings, but right here, because the driveway's a little higher, it's got a higher crown, and also that mound of dirt was there, when I would pull forward with the rear blade as low as it could be, it wouldn't grab right here. It would actually lift it above the ground, even though I had the 3-point hitch as low as it would go. So I had to turn the tractor around and use the bucket and use the back blade to scrape up this last little bit. But this side of the driveway, the washout, is reclaimed. Now we're going to reclaim the other side and then grade it. Never underestimate the power of water. So this is all clay here alongside the road, but for some reason right here, it washes out. Maybe there was a divot of sand or something, but that's almost to my knee deeper than the little depression or trench that we have here to carry water down to the pond. Just always amazes me what water can do. It's a destructive force. That didn't take that long to do, but it sure made a mess. One thing I was appreciating with that Summit 25 horsepower tractor is that because it doesn't have emissions on it, and by emissions it doesn't have a diesel particulate filter or anything that prevents you from running it at idle speed, I just barely had the tractor idling. I remained in control of everything. I didn't have to scream the tractor and have all that unwanted noise and also, waste the fuel. I was just able to idle it, drop the blade, pull up the millings, and then in a couple cases turn the tractor around and use the bucket. So that's definitely a big advantage of a 25 horsepower tractor without emissions, as opposed to the other tractor we have here on Piney Grove, our Kubota L3901. I would have had to have screamed that tractor and to keep it above 2,000 RPMs just so it doesn't collect soot in the filter. And it's just much more pleasant using this tractor for this job. But as the saying goes, sometimes you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. This is the worst part about grading a road that's in pretty good shape, is that it looks really awful once you start the process. But our next step is, you see this grass and stuff growing in the loose millings. I'm going to scrape all that and get that grass cleaned up. I hate that there's all these pine needles here, but I don't have my blower with me today or I'd blow them off. That's going to make it hard to get a good grade. I got pine needles, I got millings, I got dirt, got a big pile of dirt there. And when I spread that out, those pine needles are going to keep all the rocks and the loose dirt from flowing easily. They're going to get bound up. But we'll get it as good as we can, and after the first rain, it'll probably look perfect. What I find about grading is you want to get it perfect, but you can't get it perfect, so you keep going back over it, and you don't really make it better. It just kind of gets a little bit different. So I'm going to try to avoid getting it perfect and wasting 8 hours on it. It always amazes me, you try to get grass to grow on your property, and you can't get it to grow, but it'll grow in the middle of your driveway. As I suspected, these pine needles are going to be a pain. I may have to actually get the rake out here. Those pine needles are doing just what I thought. They're kind of messing up my grading process here. I'm gonna turn this blade, get a little angle on it so I can cut some of those millings and bring them to the center. Let's try that. The grader blade's only as wide as the tires of the tractor, so this may not work as well as I thought. If I get the tractor tires up on that railroad tie, then that'll mess up the height of the blade. Try and run right down the side here. The whole goal here is not to do any harm, not make it any worse. Those pine needles are just making this really hard. I think it would come out good if it weren't for them. I'm going to try and distribute them with the blade on the bucket. See if that works any better. It's not perfect, but this is a little better because I can lift the bucket up and down when I see that it's binding on the pine needles and kind of let more flow up under the bucket. It creates little bumps in the road, but I think I can back blade those bumps out. If it weren't for the pine needles, I think I'd have this done in a couple minutes. It's a little frustrating, but I am making progress. This is a lot better than it was than when we started the video. What I'm gonna do now is take some of this extra material and pull it up the hill and back blade it back down the hill, and hopefully it starts to feather out. I'm gonna do it with the bucket instead of the blade so I have some more control. See, with the bucket at this angle, I can push, and then when I see that I'm building up too much or I'm pushing too much, I just kind of lift the loader up a little bit. Grading is an art, and I'm no artist, that's for sure. All right, Miss Piney Grove brought me some nourishment, sausage biscuit and some water. So I'm the one with the mic, not you. So you walked up on me grading here. What are you thinking? I think I know what you're gonna say.
I think it looks like a mess.
Yep, exactly what I thought she'd say. I told him earlier, grading a road is like making an omelet. Sometimes you got to break a few eggs, and it's a mess right now, isn't it?
It's a mess. There's a lot of eggs that have been broken, but I know that the end result will be good because I know that he'll fix it. But right now, it's a mess.
Yeah, it's just really hard to grade with those pine needles. It's not going to be perfect when we're done here today, but once all of those sediments wash out, we'll come back and top dress it, and it'll look great. But I'm going to eat my biscuit right now. Okay guys, to completely wear out the analogy or metaphor, this omelet is cooked. And what I found is that if I went back and forth, those pine needles would start to grind up. And as they ground up and the sun hit it a little bit, and I really hate that it's shaded here on this part of our property because you can't see how well that it feathered out. But by those pine needles getting ground up, the dirt starting to dry, I was able to get it pretty smooth. And that was shocking to me because when we started this video, I didn't think I was going to be able to get it to this point. But simply by taking the friction of the bucket and pushing it down and pushing this dirt up the hill and down the hill, I was able to grind all those needles and branches and all the other trash that was mixed in with this gravel and this soil and make it so it was spreadable. So once I got it fairly smooth, I came back with the bucket and I dropped it and I put it in what's called float mode. And on the Summit tractor, you take the handle, the loader handle, and push it all the way forward. And basically you only have the weight of the loader and the bucket being drug, as opposed to if it's not in float mode, you're actually using the hydraulics to kind of stand the tractor up. So with just the weight of the loader and the bucket at the right angle, I back drug this up the hill. It feathered out perfectly, and I couldn't be more happy. But that's gonna wrap it up for today's video, folks. We're gonna put a couple links up here to some of our other videos, but until next time, y'all take care out there, and remember, life's short, tractor hard.